I'm Joe Kent, and I'm here with Dr. Keli'i Akina. He's the president and CEO of the Grassroot Institute of Hawaii. He's a philosopher and global scholar who travels between Asia and the USA, teaching government and business ethics. Welcome, Keli'i.
Well, Joe, aloha, and aloha to all of you in Joe's audience. Great island, Maui is just so nokaoi.
It's so nice to have you here. Can you talk a little bit about your organization, the Grassroot Institute?
The Grassroot Institute of Hawaii is a public policy think tank. We are devoted to ideas about liberty, individual freedom, the free market, as well as limited and accountable government. And so what we try to do is unite Hawaii's people in order to produce a better economy, a better government, and a better society.
Can you tell me a little bit about the Jones Act?
Sure.
Why is it a problem?
Well, the Jones Act deals with shipping here in Hawaii. If you look into our harbor on any given day, there will be a maximum of 3 ships, or maybe 2 ships, or 1 ship, or no ship. But if you go to Singapore on the very same day, you might have 50 to 80 ships. And those ships are disembarking cargo in Singapore from across the world, and they're loading up with cargo, exports, at cheap shipping rates to go to the rest of the world. In Hawaii, that doesn't happen. In Hawaii, the reason we have so few ships is because in 1920, the federal government passed a law called the Jones Act that has 4 requirements that relate to cargo going between ports that are United States. And Hawaii is most affected because we're completely surrounded by water. Here are the 4 things that the Jones Act requires. That any ship that is part of that cargo transport, number 1, be built in the United States. Number 2, be owned by a United States entity. Number 3, be manned by a 75% United States crew. And 4th, fly the United States flag. Now, what this does is so reduce the number of ships that could possibly come to port here in Hawaii to those owned by only 1 or 2 companies that it stifles us. And the net result is that on virtually everything we pay at least 1/3 higher than anywhere else in the nation. So that's just one of the effects of the Jones Act.
So you're saying that without the Jones Act, the prices of almost all the goods here on Hawaii would be a lot less.
Oh, Joe, that's absolutely right, because virtually everything is shipped in here. And even the things that we produce here in Hawaii depend upon other things that are shipped in. Have you ever gone to the store and bought eggs? What costs more, mainland eggs or local eggs?
Probably mainland eggs.
No, actually, local eggs cost
local
more.
Eggs. Is
And
that
sometimes
right? Why is that?
Well, sometimes people use that as an argument to say, see, shipped-in products don't cost more. The Jones Act doesn't cause a problem.
Right, okay.
But in reality, we have to ask the question, why do local eggs cost more than mainland eggs? And here's the reason why. Because everything about producing those local eggs, from the iron, steel, the iron that is used for the cages of the chickens, to the feed of the chickens, to the buildings that are produced to house the chickens and the cages, everything is shipped in. And by the time we pay that surcharge because of the Jones Act, even though the eggs may have been laid in Waimanalo and trucked down to your Safeway, they cost more than eggs that are shipped in because
I always
the
wondered
factors
that.
of production are shipped in.
And I mean, the same is true with milk. I was at the store the other day, and the milk imported from Texas is maybe $5, and the local Lani Moo is $8.
That's an interesting case, and that's a great story about milk because it deals with cows. And cattle in Hawaii actually cost quite a bit to us. There was an organization called the Parker Ranch. Everybody knows the Parker Ranch. They used to be a great
on the Big Island
cattle producing or cattle company. Here's the problem. Parker Ranch, in order to get its cattle, would have to ship them from Asia to Canada, have them trucked down to San Francisco, put onto vessels owned by a local Hawaiian company, and brought to Hawaii. Now think about that, the huge cost added. That's because the Jones Act says that you couldn't ship them directly from Korea to Hawaii because that ship from Korea isn't built in the United States, isn't owned by a United States entity, and doesn't fly a United States flag. But look at the contortions that are needed and the costs added, and that's why one of the reasons Parker Ranch isn't in business as a cattle ranch anymore.
So you're saying that not only imports would be better, but exports would be better without the Jones Act
Well,
as
that's an
well.
interesting thing. A lot of times people say the reason we don't have an export market in agriculture is globalization. And one of the factors pointed to is the low cost of labor in other countries in which agriculture has beat the agricultural capacity of Hawaii. Now, absolutely, that's one of the factors. But in reality, those nations are experiencing a growing middle class and growing legislation within their own countries, such as minimum wage and so forth. So the wages are actually rising. So it's less of a problem than it was before. What we don't factor in is this. One of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons that we don't have a robust export industry with regard to agriculture or other manufactured products is because of the exorbitant cost of shipping out of Hawaii. If we had more ships coming to Hawaii, disembarking their cargo, they would have empty hulls. Those hulls would be like a vacuum and siphon in products that at low cost could help revive our export industry. So the benefits are tremendous. The Bloomberg Journal, January 2013, devoted on its online edition the subject matter to the Jones Act. And in that article, they indicated that Hawaii is the most hit state in the 50 states, and that Hawaii's prices overall are at least a third higher with the Jones Act than they would be without.
Wow, that's fascinating. I guess I never realized. I knew the Jones Act had problems, but I didn't just know exactly how much. Can you talk about the Akaka Bill? Is that something else?
Sure,
that,
be glad
Grassroots
to, but
Institute-
may I just wrap up one more
Absolutely.
item on the Jones Act?
Go ahead.
The Grassroot Institute of Hawaii is a public policy think tank, so we're committed to doing research, but we're also a do tank, so to speak, and we want to help public policy to come about by shifting opinion. So we are a place where people who have different solutions as to how to solve the problem of the Jones Act can come together. We make it safe for people of all political parties, whether it be Democrat or Republican or Libertarian or Independents or anything else, people who have different solutions about the Jones Act, such as trying to get an exemption for Hawaii only or an exemption for the territories and states like Hawaii or an exemption a part of the Jones Act or a complete rescinding of it or a reform in some form. Whatever the solution is, we're a clearinghouse and a big tent where they can work together to kind of shift the tide.
So you're looking for a lot of different solutions. not
Well,
just one.
we can never know which one will work, and we also realize that the Jones Act has done some good things in Hawaii in terms of building a certain kind of corporate culture here, and we certainly affirm the value of the unions, the value of these corporations, and realize they want to transition. So there are solutions that have to be looked at. Grassroot Institute is about seeing how harmful the problem is for Hawaii, standing up for that, and bringing people together with multiple solutions to hammer out and work out the ultimate change of society for the benefit of all. One last thing. Jones Act is not a just out there corporate high-level issue. It affects people at a very, very human level. Our homeless problem is high not because everyone is destitute, but because many people are one paycheck, one level away from being able to rent or own a home. The Jones Act affects that tremendously because if the prices of housing could come down even a little bit, a good number of people who are homeless could actually afford homes, and on and on. Those are some of the real human
It's really
problems.
fascinating to think about all the different areas of life that it does affect.
Yes.
Interesting. Now, back to the Akaka Bill. Could you
Yes.
explain what it is and what it
Sure,
does?
absolutely. For the last 17 years, there has been a bill in the Congress of the United States that hasn't passed, the Native Hawaiian Recognition Act, a bill. And the original intention, according to Senator Akaka, was so that the Native Hawaiian population could be recognized as the true indigenous peoples of Hawaii in the way that American Indians are recognized as the indigenous people of America and so forth. Now, many people feel that that's an important part of helping Hawaiians have identity and helping Hawaiians have self-determinism. Now, identity and self-determinism are wonderful things, and at Grassroot Institute we support that. In fact, our position is we want to be the advocates of the Hawaiian people. We want to help to advance the Hawaiian people economically, socially, and professionally, as well as all people here in the state of Hawaii. Hawaiians by blood and Hawaiians at heart. Now, we feel that the Akaka Bill, through the years, has added provisions that may not help the Hawaiian people. One of those provisions, which is the reason that 49 states' congressional delegations refused to pass this, is because it establishes a tribalism for the Hawaiian people. In other words, if the Akaka Bill were passed in the form that it has been in for most of its 17 years, the Hawaiian people would become members of a tribe. And their relationship to their government, the United States, would be called, in the language of the bill, a tribe to government relationship. So here's the difference. Instead of a Hawaiian or being a citizen of the U.S. with the Bill of Rights as its mediator to the federal government, there would be another layer of government. The federal government of the U.S. would have a government to Hawaiian government relationship and would deal with the tribal leaders of the Hawaiians rather than the Hawaiians. Now, this is modeled exactly after the Native American Indian reservation system. And we have to say that although civil rights has gone forward in our country, there are many things we had to improve in the process of civil rights. One of the sad episodes in our history was the way we treated the Native American Indians. And the way, even after we stopped killing them off necessarily, we put them into a tribe so that we dealt with their tribal leaders rather than ensured that each citizen had the Bill of Rights as the only thing between that person and the government. So here's our feeling about Akaka Bill. The intentions are so good, and Senator Akaka, who introduced it, is a great hero and a friend of mine. We respect that. We respect everything he stood for. We stand for the advancement of the Hawaiian people, but we feel that certain provisions of the Akaka Bill are not helpful to the Hawaiian people. Now, what has happened is that provision of a government-to-government relationship with tribal leaders has instead been translated from the federal bill, known as the Akaka Bill, down to the state legislature of Hawaii, so that in the 2011-2012 session, we passed Act 195. Act 195 took that same portion of the Akaka Bill that established a government-to-government relationship and did so, or at least attempts to do so, through the state of Hawaii. So the state establishes an organization, the Native Hawaiian Roll Commission, which in a year-long period enrolls a citizenry of a nation, and add to that the land base, which the state has given back to OHA as part of the ceded lands, constitutes a nation for a government-to-government relationship. So this is a tribe. This is a tribe. And we feel that because that reflects what the Akaka Bill had and wasn't so good for Hawaiians, we are urging the government to recognize that every Hawaiian has a right to the full rights of a citizen of the United States, protected by the Bill of Rights, and must not at all be dependent upon a tribal leader to relate to his or her government.
You're saying, like, for Native Americans on the mainland, many of them are on reservations, and the communities are often poor, and maybe they can't upgrade their house, or they can't do what they want with their land. Is that the same situation that's going on here with the Akaka Bill?
Well, we're talking about something slightly different when we talk about land.
Okay.
Here in Hawaii, we have a leasehold option for Hawaiian people, Native Hawaiians, administered by the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Now, the problem with this is that while the intention is good, and it's based upon King Kamehameha III's desire, ultimately, in the Great Mahele, to provide land that the commoner would have, and it was established after that, actually, but the intention comes from his desire, because when he saw the American system, he saw that people who had land had power, and he wanted his people to have power. Although it's based upon doing that, the structure of it is a little bit counterintuitive. For example, everyone in Hawaii knows that the basis of family wealth is having fee simple land that you own outright and you can control and sell on the open market, so that you could start maybe in one part of the island and end up in a wealthy part of the island. And you own it. And no matter what happens to you, even if your children marry out of your race, you can leave it to them. Unfortunately, that's not true of the land on which people on Hawaiian homelands build their homes. So they invest in their home, build their land, and then they cannot market it on the open market. So if their child, because of intermarriage, falls below the blood quantum required to be in that land, the family will have to forfeit it. And then there could be no equity in the land. See, this is important.
And then the value of the land goes down, or?
Well, the value stays because that value remains part of what is owned by the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. Here's what we're trying to help Hawaiians with. We want to empower Hawaiians economically. Wouldn't it be wonderful if every Hawaiian who lived on Hawaiian homestead land was empowered to be able to buy the fee simple land, the land fee simple, so that they would own the house, own the land, and be able to trade it on the open market and build wealth for their families. And this was the vision of King Kamehameha III in the Great Mahele, when he took 1/3 of the lands and gave them, or didn't give them, but made them available to the common person.
So you're saying you want to go back to the original vision of King Kamehameha?
Well, it's very Hawaiian. I feel that there's a Hawaiian spirit about this. A part of the Hawaiian spirit is to honor the intentions of the monarchs, to see that their people would be a great people, and that their people would be landowners, homeowners, just as all other people who've come to these islands realize. There are other wonderful ethnic groups here who are Hawaiians by heart. Japanese, Chinese, Caucasian, and many newer ethnic groups who've come to Hawaii, who figure out very quickly that the basis for personal wealth and freedom is to own a piece of the rock and be able to cultivate it. And when you own your own land, you take care of it, and society is stronger. You see, the freedom principles apply very much to understanding the situation of the Hawaiian people. So once again, at Grassroot Institute of Hawaii, we want to be the #1 champion for the advancement of the Hawaiian people and for all people of Hawaii. We want everyone to have an economy at the macro level that is free of the restrictions that are put on by the Jones Act. So we'd like to see that transitioned. But on the micro level, we want to see every person who wants to capable of owning fee simple land and building wealth. And as we do that, we defend individual liberty. We help government to be limited and more accountable in its role, since it doesn't manage everything, such as leasehold land. And ultimately, that builds a better society.
Well, thank you so much for visiting us here on Maui. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I just want to say that the work that you're doing, Joe, and is just great work. Grassroot Institute is not a political party, and so we don't endorse any party whatsoever, but we welcome members of all parties to come together to find that common ground in which we can work together to solve the issues that really affect us and hurt us. And aloha to all of you who are watching. Please contact us at grassrootinstitute.org, and that's grassroot singular, grassrootinstitute.org, and we'd love you to visit us anytime you're near our offices in Honolulu. Aloha.